welcome everybody to the Real Marks of Long Island. How are we, everyone? We have a special guest today. If you have to know her if you are on social media. You have a marketing and media guru, interviewer, podcaster, bodyslam.net. We have Stephanie Hypes. Stephanie, how are you doing today?
I'm awesome. How are you? Happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday is right. We are doing quite all right. My wife and I just came back from tattoo appointments. I
Oh,
know Ty's dealing with a little sinus infection going on up there. Court's
Just
just
trying to get
hanging
through
out.
I'm
wait,
just still
so
reeling from WrestleMania.
did you get tattoos? Hold on.
Yes, so me and my wife, we had a tattoo appointment. Our last name is Star, and we just had our first son 5 months ago. So we got 3 tattoos, so
Oh,
3
stop
stars. So
it. Oh, y'all trying to
so
make
me
me
and my
cry
wife
today. That's awesome.
and my baby, So
Well, congratulations
once
to you
again,
too.
thank you. But let's just get right into it. Stephanie, I listened to a podcast recently that you were on probably several months ago. So I know how you got started with loving wrestling, but if you want to let everyone listening here and, fill Court and Ty in, let us know, how did you get into wrestling and where did this love come from?
Well, I got into wrestling because of my lovely mother. I was probably about 5 or 6 years old. And we're military, so we traveled a lot. And so there's only so many things you get on TV sometimes, depending if you're on or off base. I lived in 4 different countries in my life, and it's made me very cultured and obviously really adaptable to change and different things. But wrestling was one of the things we always got on TV. And my mom was a huge Undertaker fan. And I don't know, I remember just one day, she'd always watch this show. And that was this man with this hat, and I'm like, with a purple hat. And I was like, what are you watching, right? Like, I'm 6. And she's like, it's the Undertaker. He's so cool. And I'm like, I don't know what she's talking about, right? But I just ended up kind of sitting there and watching it with her. And then eventually, I started seeing some of the tag team wrestling, and that's actually what I fell in love with. I'm a huge LOD fan. And so I kind of fell in love with them. I did a whole art project on it where I made like the little pads and like the spikes out of toilet paper rolls. Like, I was the coolest thing at school. I think people were looking at me like I was nuts, but I thought it was cool at least. I made little LOD custom pads, if you will. But yeah, I fell in love with tag team wrestling. LOD was kind of first, and the Hardy Boys, Dudleys, APA. Like, that's just how I got into it. And then Kane came along, that storyline with Undertaker, and I was like, just to go against my mom, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm rooting for Kane. Ended up being like the biggest Kane fan ever. And again, all my art projects in school were always after wrestling as well. And I made this really cool Kane mask out of clay. And my mom has it somewhere in storage, so I want to find it. But that's kind of how it started, and I'd been watching ever since. I stopped watching kind of in my 20s, to be 20, doing the most, if you will. In college, obviously, it just kind of fell off for me. So I actually missed, this is the funniest part, I missed most of the Ruthless Aggression era, at least live, which is crazy to think. That's why, to me, at first, I didn't know why people thought CM Punk was such a big deal. I had no clue. John Cena, obviously, I knew of, but I did not see every detail of that era. So I had to go back and watch it once I got back into it. But yeah, that's kind of how it started.
I have a question for you because your love for tag team wrestling. What's your thoughts on the new kind of revival of, I guess, the SmackDown tag team division? Because for a while, the tag team divisions in WWE had kind of been on the back burner. But what we're seeing with like DIY, what we're seeing with Street Profits, with
Motor
the
City
Motor City Machine Guns. What are your thoughts?
Um, and I think it still needs work. I don't think WWE. I don't think the height of tag team wrestling, the way it made me feel when I was a kid, I don't think it's there. As we saw, that TLC match easily should have been on the Mania card. That was insane. Don't get me wrong, they got to main event SmackDown, and I get if it was on the Mania card, they wouldn't have got that kind of spotlight. But to the point, they don't. I don't know if they necessarily see it as a main attraction anymore, the way they kind of used to. Um, I actually thought AEW has done tag team wrestling better than WWE in recent years. So it is good to see them kind of refocusing and kind of rebuilding. And I see that, but then you look at the Raw tag team division and you're like, and this is someone who's an Ivar Nation fan over here. It's just not equivalent. So it still needs work on both brands, but if any brand, NXT has been killing it on all fronts. So yeah, I am glad to see them refocusing, but it does still need some work.
It's funny that you just brought up, how the Raw division really needs that help, because before you jumped in here, we were just like literally 2 minutes before you hopped in, we were talking about how awesome the TLC match was last night, but then how
Incredible.
shocked we were that they decided to put Fraxium on SmackDown. So it's like the rich get richer, when you could have pushed them over to Raw to give them a little bit of that boost. So right there, did you think Fraxium should have hopped over to Raw rather than SmackDown too?
I'm gonna say something that's maybe a little controversial. I think there should be one set of tag team champion titles, to be honest with you, that just go between the brands and just have those tag team champions go back and forth, because I just don't think, off the top of my head, I can only name two teams on Raw, which is the New Day and War Raiders. Who else is there? Like, am I off the top of my head? I cannot think of any other. Pretty Deadly's on SmackDown.
Yeah, we
Fraction's
said
on
I think A-Town Down Under is on Raw right now.
I thought they were on SmackDown. Are they on Raw?
I think they jumped over to Raw for the Netflix debut. But see, that's
okay.
the thing.
That's to the point.
Though. It's like yes, that's the perfect point right there. It's like we don't know with the Raw division. It's the perfect point right there.
And they have no one to really bounce off of to become these badass heels, and so it's lacking. And so that's why I think there should be one set of titles that just goes between Raw and SmackDown, and just call it a day. I don't know. It's not that deep. The roster is not deep enough in tag teams for the men or women, frankly, to justify having two sets of titles.
So
Yeah, I agree with you totally.
So you
Sorry,
mentioned
Court.
how
I didn't mean to cut you off, by the way.
You didn't. I was just agreeing. That's all.
Sorry.
So you mentioned how it's funny how you said that you also took a break, because I believe even I did. When I grew up, I also took that like 4 or 5 years that I really like. I would catch up on it, but I wasn't avidly watching weekly. And I can't speak for Court or Ty, but I feel like everyone at some point gets that, just burnt out feeling of watching constantly. So when did you get back into it?
I actually got back into it because of the women. So if anyone knows me, obviously I go very hard for women's wrestling. But they're the ones who brought me back in, which is kind of why I go so hard for women's wrestling. 2015, I happened to see, actually it was Total Divas, and I was like, what is this about? And there's all these women on there, and I'm like, they have a reality show for women's wrestling? Like, I was so confused, because to me, when I left wrestling, if you will, watching it, divas were like Terry Runnels and like Sable, and you know what I mean? So I'm like, what do you mean by like, I'm like, is it like, are they modeling? Like, I didn't know. So I start watching that show. And then when they were actually saying like they were having matches and stuff, I was kind of like, oh, like they're actually wrestling. And so they had mentioned Paige on that show. And they had also mentioned AJ Lee on that show. And so I just happened to catch I happened to catch the Raw where Paige made her debut and she went against AJ Lee and won the title. And I watched that match and I was kind of like, oh shit. I was like, oh my God. I don't know if I can cuss. Sorry. I was
You absolutely go for it. Go for it.
I was like, oh shit, they're wrestling. Like, these girls are great, right? And so, because there wasn't a lot of that, we had Jacqueline who wrestled very well. We had Trish who did some wrestling. But to the extent that these women were actually wrestling, I was kind of shocked. And I'm like, and they said, Paige from NXT, or whatever they said. And I was like, what is NXT? Like, I all this stuff I had missed. And so I just kind of did a deep dive into these things. So I'm like, what is NXT? Paige, what? AJ Lee? Like, I was trying to figure it all out because I had been gone for so long. And then once I discovered what NXT was, I became back obsessed. Like, I fell in love with the Four Horsewomen. Sasha was my favorite. And then the redhead from Ireland just like stole my heart at Unstoppable. And I had just been hooked ever since. Like, I was just like, oh, they're wrestling. I'm like, okay. So, yeah, 2015 is when I got back into it.
Do you have so you mentioned the Four Horsewomen. Now, NXT Black and Gold, even then before that, what is your favorite women's match from NXT? If you had to, out of nowhere, just think about one, boom. I know it's tough to put you on the spot, but would it be something with Becky or?
Well, I like the NXT Unstoppable match with Sasha and Becky just because that's where I learned about who Becky Lynch was. But as far as favorite matches, it has to be Brooklyn. I mean, between Sasha and Bayley, it was insane. There was also a match with Asuka and Bayley. Asuka and Bayley? Asuka and... I can't remember right now. But there was a match with Asuka because I was like, who's this Asuka chick? Like, she's awesome. Like, because that was kind of after the Four Horsewomen had kind of moved on. But Asuka was incredible. And she had the streak going as well. And I was like really kind of into that. But I would have to say Brooklyn takeover match between Sasha and Bayley. I mean, it changed women's wrestling. And I feel like it put them on a new pedestal. They main evented a pay-per-view, which had never happened up to that point at such a high level. So that was kind of it for me. I was kind of like, oh my God, like this is insane. Like, this is happening. And then they debuted on Raw, I think 4 weeks after that, Sasha, Becky, and Charlotte. And so, yeah, I've been on this ride with them literally from 2015 on. And it's been amazing to watch, honestly.
Those are some of the shows that me speaking personally, I wish I got to since we're so close to Brooklyn. But yeah, like watching that live, like on TV, is like, oh my goodness, the crowd, just the atmosphere that you can hear inside of the Barclays Center was just spectacular. But to move forward, so how did you get involved with the content creation that with wrestling? I know you're in media and marketing. Yeah. So how did you get involved by all right, I'm gonna give this a whirl with wrestling and see where it goes?
So I think, and if you saw that other podcast, like you mentioned, I said this, I had no intention of being a content anything, right? Like I did freelance marketing for other companies. They would hire me to help promote their stuff, whether it be giveaways, like whatever it was. It was actually 2019. As everyone knows, I'm a huge Becky Lynch fan. And obviously, that meteoric rise for her between 2018 and 2019. And I went to Royal Rumble here in Arizona that year. And so, or I had tickets to go. And I happened to look up online. So I Googled meet and greets at, in Phoenix. Because I wanted to meet her, right? And so I was like, that would be so cool. And so I ended up finding a Twitter link about someone who posted about the giveaway. And her meet and greet is sold out in like 45 seconds or something like that. And someone had posted that on Twitter. And so I clicked on it and I was kind of like, and I was on Twitter kind of, but I was doing the promotional stuff. And so I find this link and this person, all these comments from other people. And I looked at my husband and I was like, God, I was like, babe, there's people talking about wrestling online. I was like, what? Because I have no friends that like wrestling like I do. So I can't talk to anybody about it. Um, my husband's a casual viewer. So for him, he's like, but I was like, I had discovered basically wrestling Twitter, and I just took like a deep dive, man. Again, I was like, oh, people who love wrestling like me, like, and they were talking about scenarios and what's going to happen at Rumble and doing prediction shows, and I'm like, this is amazing. Like, I literally didn't find wrestling Twitter until January 2019, and from there, honestly, I was just tweeting. I was just tweeting. I was being myself. I was just saying how I feel, not knowing the drama that can come with wrestling Twitter as well. So it was a learning thing, but that's literally how I got into it. So basically, I just tweeted, and I started meeting other fans and people in other countries, and eventually, somehow, I gained this following of people who are like, you're so positive, and I'm like, is this not normal? Like, I'm so confused. Like, I was like, what do you mean? Like, you're just so positive. I'm like, is no one else? Like, and of course now knowing how Twitter can be, that's how it started. And then wrestlers started following me, and Becky started like acknowledging my tweets and retweeting me. And somehow that gained more traction. And I was just kind of like, what is going on? So, that's kind of how it all started on the wrestling end. And then as me and Becky got closer, I started like creating stuff for her. And she would start using it. And so whether it be a background, a banner, whatever it might be, and then just the fan connection, honestly. I guess, again, at the time, I didn't realize that bigger accounts don't talk to smaller accounts or something. I missed that memo because I talk to anybody and everybody who loves wrestling. And that was like a big deal for people. They were like, you acknowledged me. And I'm like, hold the one up. I'm like, of course. I'm like, you're a human who likes wrestling. Like, why wouldn't I? And that community aspect of it, I think, is what garnered people's attention from WWE as well. And so that's kind of basically how it started. And then some of the PR guys started reaching out. I started doing some podcasts, which I was very, very, very hesitant to do. Because obviously I'm a wife, I'm a mom, I have a full-time job. I was like, I don't know how much time I have to commit to a podcast. And as you guys know, as podcasters, you try and stay consistent. This is our show. This is the times it comes on. And without that consistency, you can't grow. And so I was very hesitant to join a podcast or do that. Number one, I'm like, who the fuck wants to hear me talk? Number two, I don't know if I'd be good at this. And so I had a couple friends that I met through wrestling Twitter. And they were like, do you want to just try this with me and do like a Raw recap and do this? And I'm like, sure. Apparently, eventually that got a hold of WWE PR's attention in some way. And then one of them contacted me and started following me and said, like, hey, like, do you want to try covering some of these things? And I'm like, sure. And of course, I'm like, this is a scam. They're going to ask me for money. It's coming. I just know it. But yeah, that's how it started, basically.
It's so...
I would say that's awesome. It's especially because, like, how I know Twitter, too, like, it's just, like, a pit of darkness sometimes, and you being the light in there for the wrestling community. And it's funny because, like, how Justin Court and I really, like, start out, like, internet-wise with wrestling. Yeah. We used to play SmackDown versus Raw 2005. And there was, like, we had, like, this forum where we would, like, have online matches and stuff, and it grew from there. And, like, before Twitter, me, Court, and Justin were on these, like, wrestling forums all the time when we were in high school. Just, like...
That's awesome.
The moment we got home from school, the weekends, like... And it was funny because that was, like, like a tight-knit, like, community-ish. But like
Yeah.
with Twitter, it's a lot more fun because you're engaging with people globally. And yeah, there's you know some people that aren't the greatest, but most of the time you're interacting with people who love wrestling just as much as you. And me personally, like I love seeing who people their favorites are because everyone's different and why and what got them into wrestling. Because for me, like you, I was a kid. My dad used to have it all the time on. And everyone's story is different, so it's always cool to hear like new perspectives and stuff.
And
when I started
also,
hearing about these forums and all these things that existed, this whole time, and I'm like, I'm just discovering there's even any online wrestling anything in 2019, guys. A grown ass woman, and I'm like, oh my god, this exists. Like, I'm such a dork. It's fine. It's fine.
And it's funny because you mentioned like the positivity, and you're with Body Slam and we're with PWN, and I think that's where Cassidy and Jay and Fogg have really been able to grow together because they're trying to build that positive community for wrestling fans on the internet. Because like you said, and it's unfortunate, but there's a lot of toxicity throughout the IWC. So it's a perfect place, both Body Slam and PWN for people like you. You should be the face of PWN and Body Slam with how positive you are. But
fine with me. Like,
it's
go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
I was just gonna say, because I'd been on a couple podcasts before. Body Slam kind of did a revamp, if you will. And they had reached out to me 2 years ago. And just SP actually reached out to me because he was like their new head of media. I don't know. I forgot exactly the title, but and I already done a show with him with for women's wrestling over there. And so he was like, would you want to be a Body Slam and do a podcast or do like a SmackDown recap or whatever? And I was like, sure, like let's try it out. The job I currently have, which I started 2 years ago, I'm a marketing manager for venues for ASM Global, which keeps me very busy. I have concerts all the time that I'm covering and getting content for, and so it just became so demanding. I couldn't do, as you know, most concerts happen on Fridays and Saturdays, so I couldn't do the SmackDown recap anymore. So I went to Cass and I'm like, hey, like, I'm so sorry. Like, I was like, if I ever cover anything for you, whatever, like, let me know. And at the time, I'd already gone to WrestleMania once and did some coverage, WrestleMania Hollywood with Steve Fall. And Cass was like, well, if you want to cover like SummerSlam, you could do that. And I'm like, by myself? It's crazy because in real life, as I call it, I'm the most confident person ever at my job, and I'm great at it, and I rock. And as soon as it comes to this stuff, I question myself. Like, I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. And so, but other people luckily believe in me, and encourage me to do it. And so that's kind of how it started. Was he's like, just sign up as Body Slam and see what happens. And I was like, okay. And so I did, and I went to SummerSlam in Detroit. And I walk into the check-in area, and there's all these WWE PR guys there. And what's the top guy's name? Leventhal? Chris Leventhal?
Oh, Chris Van Fleet.
No.
Chris Van Fleet. No. Oh,
The WWE guy. I know
He was WWE guy. Anyway, he's like the head of like PR for them. So I walk in there, there's all these it's okay. All these PR guys are standing there, and I'm like, Stephanie Hypes? Like, zero confidence. All right. I'm like, Stephanie Hypes? And he looks up and he goes, oh yeah, Stephanie Hypes, it's so nice to meet you. Da, 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 da. And like one of the other ones come up, they're like, yeah, we all follow you. And I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, I just look at him and I'm like, is that good or bad? And he's like, you're here, right? And I'm like, true. Like, true. And then the big boss comes, Chris Leventhal, whatever. Forgive me. I forgot your name, sir. However, and he's like, yeah, you're really funny. And I about died. I'm like, he's the VP of their PR. And I was just like, holy shit. Like, I just walked in the room and I'm like, what just happened right now? Like, so it's really cool to see that people are appreciating what you're doing or tweeting or whatever it might be. But it was like surreal. It was very surreal. That anyone in WWE on the admin side even knows who I am. So that was crazy to me. That was crazy.
So SummerSlam in Detroit was the first event that you covered for Body Slam?
Was it the first one? Yeah, WrestleMania. I was Hollywood. I was with Steve Fall, and that was kind of my first like dip the toe in. SummerSlam Detroit. I'm sorry, SummerSlam Detroit. I covered for Steve Fall because he was out. He had to go back home. So actually, sorry, it was WrestleMania Philadelphia. That was the very first one I did for Body Slam.
So how many events have you now officially, like, even if like just not even PLEs, but how many events have you now worked as media?
Just PLEs, you said?
Yeah, PLEs or just random Raws or SmackDowns. It doesn't,
Probably now like 6. Then WrestleMania Hollywood, which that was my first one. I was just dipping my toes, so I don't count it as much. I wasn't interviewing or anything. I was just doing content, right? And I brought my husband too as like a security blanket, so that was there. WrestleMania Hollywood, Detroit, SummerSlam, WrestleMania Philadelphia, Cleveland SummerSlam, and then WrestleMania Las Vegas. But I've also done Raws and SmackDowns as well. Like 2 or 3 Raws or SmackDowns. So, which is a little different. There's no interviews involved. So it's more just getting content and just posting it and being positive and whatever.
So now here you are, you in your mind, you just found wrestling Twitter, people talk about wrestling on the internet. And now here you are a few years later, like living out a dream. So which interview did you have? And then afterwards you had to like take like 5 minutes to yourself and say like, holy shit, like I'm living my dream and I just interviewed blank. Like, would it be Becky Lynch just because, how big of a fan you are, or was it someone else?
So I haven't interviewed Becky yet. It is on the list. It is on the bucket list. So the interview that I had to go, remember I told you who brought me back into wrestling. So interviewing Bayley. I interviewed Bayley at SummerSlam, Cleveland. And she was the very first interview I did that day. Because the way it's set up, when you walk into the press room, they have different, lighted areas for interviews. Most of the time you have zero clue who you're getting. Like, they'll give you a list of people that might be there so you can kind of prep. But most of the time you don't know who's going where, like which one's standing, which station. This year, God bless them, they actually put the names of who was going where. And I saw the name Bayley when I walked in. I went straight to that line and stood there. I was like, I am not moving. I am interviewing this woman because, like I told you, the 4 horsewomen were one of the main reasons that brought me back. Bayley is one of the best. And that's a dream interview for me. And so I interviewed her at Cleveland last year. Incredible. Like, and as soon as I was done, because she knew who I was too, she was like, "Oh my God, it's so good to see." And I'm like, "Oh dear." I had to take 5 minutes before I jumped into the next line, which was Jade Cargill. That was the next line I jumped into. But yeah, I had to take 5 minutes for that one because I was like, "Holy shit!" I just interviewed one of the 4 horsewomen. Like, because you don't usually get bigger stars in those rooms. It's usually kind of your second tier, if you will. So your IC champions, your US champions. You're not going to get Cody Rhodes in there, that type of thing. Like Chris Van Vliet, he'll get like Cody Rhodes or, Fightful. They'll get the bigger names, or Busted Open. They'll get bigger names, but most of the time we don't always get the bigger names. So Bayley was it for me. The second time I had to take a breath was actually at WrestleMania, the press conference. I got to ask Becky Lynch the very first question after her return. And that, again, was peak for me because my peak for me would be interviewing, like sitting down and actually interviewing her. Most people, I don't really go around, publicly, sharing this, but Becky and I text each other all the time. Like we're really cool. And, we got really close actually over COVID. We actually ended up both being pregnant at the exact same time. And our kids are 3.5 weeks apart, which is crazy. So we were going through the whole pregnancy and COVID, the George Floyd protests, all these things during 2020. And we were talking about it back and forth the whole time. She's like checking in on you, like, are you good? And I'm like, I'm good. Are you good? And sharing like baby clothes, like links and stuff. I'm like, look at this one. This one's really cute. And both of our husbands are huge Bears fans. So I had shared with her a Bears onesie that I got to surprise my husband, and I think she ended up probably getting it. I don't know. I didn't ask her. I just sent the link, and she was like, "This is awesome!" And I'm like, "Oh my god." But anyway, during that year, we had gotten closer. And probably by the time she returned, like she is like, here's my phone number, like just call me, like instead of, because we were just DMing back and forth on Instagram. And then she was like, just call me, here's my phone number. And I'm like, I went to my husband, I was like, Becky Lynch just gave me her phone number. I'm like, what the fuck? What's going on? I was like, is this real life? So anyway, so I had actually texted her. So here's the thing with me and her. I don't like to know about returns or ends of matches. She knows I'm a fan. I want to be surprised just like everybody else. I will never ask her about a return or a surprise or a match. Like I don't do that. We've talked about things she's pitched before that never went through or happened, storyline wise. But we've never, or I will never ask her about an ending or any of that type of stuff. So I had an idea she was returning at WrestleMania. I did not know for sure, and I did not know she was turning heel. And so I actually texted her after she returned, and we have this inside joke. I text her basically me yelling, so it's like A and a whole bunch of H's. So basically, ah! So I always text her that when something major happens, and she just laughs her ass off. So I text that to her. And she writes back with all these smiley, like laughy faces. And I was like, and I didn't say, I was like, oh, I may or may not be in the press conference. Because at first they had told me I was not going to be in the press conference for night 2. I was in there night 1. And so I was like, okay, like, and that's fine, right? Share the wealth. I didn't make it in. I shot a text message to one of the WWE PR guys. And I was like, hi. I'm like, I never ask y'all for anything, but I'm like, Becky's gonna be. If Becky's in that press conference, I was like, I would love to be in the press conference, and I was like, I understand if I cannot be, right? One thing Titus O'Neil told me, and I tell this to people all the time, he gave me advice 2 years ago, and I've lived by it, and that's a closed mouth does not get fed. There's nothing wrong with asking the question. The worst thing they can say is no. And he told me that 2 years ago. And ever since then, all these opportunities have happened for me because I've asked a question. And that's what I did. I asked him if I could go into the press conference, and I heard nothing. It was crickets. John Cena and Cody Rhodes are on. It's almost the end of the night. And I'm just like, all right, well, I tried. It's okay. I tried. And all of a sudden, you see the guy from PR come around the corner, and he gives me a wristband. And he's like, I can't guarantee you're going to get a question. He was like, but you're in the press conference. And I was like, so happy.
That's amazing.
And then when I got into the press room and Becky and Lyra were about to come out, he looked right at me and he's like, you're first. And I was like, and so again, very thankful, very grateful. And you just got to ask the question, guys. Like, again, the worst thing they could say is no. I'm a big believer in what's for you is meant for you. And if it wasn't my time, if it wasn't meant for me, I wouldn't have been in that room. So I'm a true believer in that.
I was gonna say, I heard you the first night and I was like, oh shit, it's Stephanie. And then the second I was like, oh shit, it's Stephanie again. So I just you know, amazing job with both of those questions. But that leads me to a question. So I guess for everyone with media credentials, how do they pick who gets night 1 or night 2? Like you said, you might not have had night 2. So how do you know any insight on like who they pick or how?
I have zero clue. Like, I have no clue. I think a big part of it is just kind of sharing the wealth, obviously. Like, letting people who didn't get in night 1 make sure they get into night 2. So at least with them adding me, I didn't take away anyone else's spot. They just kind of added the spot for me. So because I would never want to take someone else's spot, if that makes sense. So I honestly am not sure. There's been times I've made it into both nights of the press conference without me asking. And, you know, this time I technically wasn't supposed to be in night 2 press conference, but I asked a question and they allowed me to do it. So your guess is as good as mine, to be honest, because they don't sit with us. They sit in their own area away from us. And so we really don't see them till it's kind of, we only see them when it's time to check in and go into the press room, press box, excuse me. And then we'll see them kind of towards the end of the night when it's time for them to walk people down to the press room.
So doing WrestleMania is like insane, right? 2 days, well, longer weekend than that, but it starts at 5 p.m., ends at 11, then the press conference doesn't go till 12. Sunday, right? Monday, were you back at work or were you able to take some time off to like just decompress from the WrestleMania craziness?
Monday, so I actually drove this time because Vegas is actually really close to me. I'm in Arizona. Usually I'm flying. So I almost, with WrestleMania for sure, with the 2 nights, I have to fly back Monday, or go back Monday, whatever. So typically, no. Typically I fly back and I go back to work Tuesday. And this week in particular for my job, we also had a major concert at our venue last night. And so the moment I got back on Monday, I was checking emails, for my real job, and right back to work, Tuesday morning. To say I'm exhausted is an understatement because Mania week in itself, I don't know how many of you have been to a Mania week. You have, it's exhausting because it's not just WrestleMania, right? And that's what I love about it. It brings all the indie promotions, all the parties, all the meet and greets, WrestleCon, like the whole area just becomes this wrestling, city, if you will. And it's easy to get overwhelmed, at least for me, if I don't keep a schedule, because you have people inviting you to this and come here and, hey, I hope I see you. Hey, drop by. It's easy to say until you get to wherever the city is, because it all depends on how easy it is to transit. Can I just walk there? Do I need to Uber 80 million times? Like, all that stuff adds up. And it can become very expensive, so you have to keep a budget. You have to kind of know what you want to do ahead of time. And I try not to overbook myself. WWE sends me their schedule for their stuff, and I kind of basically book around that or decide if I want to do it or not. So, for instance, they actually did invite me to Raw, but I was like, I'm going home. I'm going home. I'll watch Raw with my babies at home. And so I left around 9 from Vegas and got home around 3 and watched Raw when it came on at 5 with my kids, and I was perfectly happy with that. But yeah, I mean, it's an experience, right? So you just got to pace yourself and know what you do or don't want to do. If you're in the indie wrestling, there's plenty of it for you and a lot of great stuff. A lot of WWE people or wrestlers like to show up to some of those indie shows just to watch because they love it themselves, right? So it's great. Honestly, it's great. It's just very tiring. And then I just happen to also have a lot going on at my own job as well. So it's been nonstop.
One thing I have to mention that you said, watch Raw at 5 p.m. I am so jealous of that. To wait
I know,
till 8
you
p.m.
poor East
on the East
Coasters.
Coast. Yeah.
I know. Like, when you were setting up this interview and you're like, we'll do it at 10:30. I'm like, what? And I'm like, oh yeah, 6:30 my time. I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, that's so late. Like, it just seems so late. I don't know how you guys do
I'm just
it.
so jealous because being able to watch Raw at 5 p.m. sounds amazing. So like it end at 8 and then you can actually like just chill and then go to bed. Like I wish that was how it was on the East Coast.
It's like even better now. I think even for you guys, because with Netflix, at least you can kind of pick and choose when you want to watch it. Obviously, if it's live watching, it's still late for you guys. But and it's only like 2.5 hours now for Raw. SmackDown is the one that's kind of a pain because if I don't catch it at 5, I have to wait till the West Coast showing, which is at 9. And so then I'm right back where you guys kind of are, and watching it late. But
So you mentioned how WWE sends you their schedule and you kind of work around it. SummerSlam so happens to be in our neck of the woods this year. It's at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey. Mm-hmm. Does that mean we will see Stephanie Hypes at SummerSlam this year?
No, you will not.
Oh.
You will not. So here's the problem. There's a couple things. Number one, I'm actually waiting to see if Evolution is actually scheduled. Because I'm going to let you know, that's like my priority. If Evolution 2 is happening at Mohegan Sun in Connecticut, I will be going to Connecticut for the very first time. Like I missed the first Evolution. I have to go to Evolution 2. That I'm waiting for, but also they have 2 pay-per-views now that are happening on the West Coast. And so I'm like, they have Survivor Series, which I think is in San Diego?
San Diego.
San Diego, thank you.
San Diego. Yeah.
And Survivor Series in Los Angeles. And so now I'm like, oh, they're in my neck of the woods. I'm like, maybe. So I was actually going to go to SummerSlam, but then they announced 2 PLEs that were going to be on my side of the woods. So I was like, and those were drivable for me. So I'm like, maybe Mama will just stay over here on the West Coast this year.
And speaking of Evolution 1 was right here on Long Island. It was at the Nassau Coliseum. Unfortunately, I mean, I didn't get to go to it. I don't think Court or Ty were able to go to it. So, I mean, if it is official at Mohegan Sun, then I will take the ferry to Connecticut and I will meet up with you at Evolution 2.
You can take a ferry. See, this is the thing I don't get about East Coast. It drives me nuts. Y'all can like take trains and like ferries and shit and get places. I have to walk through the fucking desert to get somewhere over here. Okay, like it takes forever to get to another state on this side of the world. Like it's just so annoying. Like you guys, I went to Detroit. Okay, and I know I'm pretty good with geography, you guys. I'm not dumb. I promise you. But I went to Detroit. And I'm walking along the river, which is behind the stadium. And I look across the water and there's fucking Canadian flags. And I'm like, now why is there Canadian flags across the river? And the girl I was with, she's like, Stephanie, that's Canada. And I was like, what do you mean? That's Canada. And she's like, you just crossed that bridge and you're in Canada. And I'm like, that makes so much more sense because when I was looking for Airbnbs, it kept saying like Windsor, Canada. And I'm like, why the fuck are they putting Windsor, Canada? It took me forever to figure that out. And I feel so stupid. I was like, so you're telling me I could take a bridge and just be in a whole nother country? I'm like, hold on. I'm like, this is amazing. I'm like, and I could take a train south to DC, like for an hour and a half. I'll be in Washington, DC. Like, I was mind blown how close everything is on the East Coast. Like, I was like, it must be nice over here. Just go wherever you want for the weekend. Like, incredible.
I mean, Court, you can speak for it, but it was WrestleMania in Philadelphia. Ty is currently living in PA, and I mean, Court, how quick was that train that you took up to him?
Yeah, I took an Amtrak.
Oh,
yeah,
that's
I took
what it
an
was.
Amtrak.
Philadelphia, an hour and a half down to DC,
Yeah.
right? That's the one. I was like, you can get to DC from
quick,
Philadelphia
yeah.
in an hour? I was like, what?
Yeah, and Amtrak, like, you book it ahead of time. It's cheap. It's quick. I think it's like 2.5 hours from New York City to Philadelphia, which is like a 3-hour drive. So, but you could
That's so
sit on the
close to
train.
me.
You could watch
That's
TV. It's
I can't stand the East Coast as far as living, but oh my God, I love visiting because I'm like, I can get anywhere I want. And I love New York. I fell in love with New York. Oh my God, I love New York. Like, I don't think I could live there, but God, I love visiting. I've been there twice already now. I'm like, I'm gonna just keep going. I have to go over to Jersey now. But everyone's like, you have to go to Jersey. I'm like, because I haven't been there yet.
Yeah, New Jersey's New Jersey.
Yeah,
you can
it's
if you
funny.
want.
It's funny because Court and I,
Justin's
were
like, I don't
cousins.
recommend it.
But so Court and I are cousins, and we grew up at like Christmas time. Like our routine was my dad's business did barter with a limousine company, so we would like my dad's side of the family would take a limo into New York City every Christmas, do the tree,
Nice.
do the Rockettes. So like it's so like ingrained in our culture in New York City, and then
Yeah.
to like living in Pennsylvania and like seeing your your reaction too. Like people love New York when they get to see it for the first time, and like being in its backyard, I guess I kind of take it for granted sometimes.
Like, you don't understand how big of a deal it was. So I actually went around Christmas time for the very first time. We went at the beginning of December, and we went to Jingle Ball. So I went inside the arena, and I was like, oh my God, this is the arena that was in Godzilla. Like, it's stuff like that. Like, you have to understand, people who live on the West Coast are like, we only see New York in movies. So for me, I was like landing, and I was just crying because I'm like, I can't believe I'm here. Oh, it's New York. And so we landed. We did so much walking, but that's the coolest thing. We can walk everywhere or just take the train. Like, it was so easy to get around. We went to the 9/11 memorial where I cried again for like some hours. And it was just nice. I don't know. And that pizza. Oh, I don't know what you guys put in that fucking pizza, but I was like, I'm taking this shit back home. I don't know how. I'm like, they put crack in this or something. I don't know, but I'm like, this shit is so good. I don't understand what this is. And some random dude on the New York train, don't know him, but I was talking about pizza, and I was like, this pizza is so amazing. He's like, you want to know what the secret is? And I'm like, I don't know if I want to know the secret, sir. I don't know if I want to know, but I just love it. And he's like, it's the water. And I'm like, what? He's like, the water that they use to make the dough. He was like, it's because of the water that they use. The water system's different or something, and it has like salt or something. I don't know I don't know. He's made some shit up for all I know, but I was like, babe, I'm like, we have to get New York water. Oh my God. I was like, their pizza is so good. Oh my, like, I was so upset I could not take this shit home. Like, you don't understand. I wanted to walk on the
my
plane with like
goodness.
3 boxes of pizza and just sit down and have no one question my life. I'm like, leave me alone. Where's your
True,
luggage,
they do
man?
say it's the water. They do say it's the water, which is doesn't make sense to me.
So that is the thing that the man didn't just.
That's what they say.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you to that guy.
It's funny. Court always goes for Domino's instead.
Well, sometimes I like Domino's. Okay.
Wait, do you live in New York?
Throw me under the bus. Yeah. Yeah.
Who
Me and
are
Justin
you?
do.
What do
That's how I
you
grew up
mean?
here.
How are you gonna go to Domino's? We can go to Giovanci's down the street. Like, oh my God.
Listen.
Yep.
Listen, at 3 a.m. when you're destroyed drunk, Domino's is quite good.
Oh my gosh. That's like people here, if you come to Arizona and you go to fucking Taco Bell, do not go to Taco Bell when you're in Arizona, when there's all these authentic ass Mexican restaurants and taco trucks and shops, because those are amazing. Don't go to Taco Bell. We will judge you, and we'll have a right to.
Don't go to any fast food chains. That's what I'm getting out of this. Don't go to Domino's. Don't go to Taco Bell. Stephanie, this is the Real Marks of Long Island podcast. So the final question has to be, which three current or former superstars do you mark out for?
3 current or former?
Mm-hmm.
One of them I just met in WrestleMania weekend, and that's Jacqueline. Jacqueline was my first favorite women's superstar ever, and I met her at WrestleCon, and I was talking to her just like I talked to you guys here, and I'm like, oh, I was like, you're such an inspiration, blah, blah, blah. You know, I grew up watching you. You're amazing. That. And all of a sudden, I'm just like, like, I just start bawling. And she's looking at me and she's, oh, honey, are you okay? You know, with her little Texas accent. Are you okay? And I'm like, I don't know why I'm crying. Like, I literally said that. I'm like, I don't know what's happening right now. And she's like, oh, it's okay. She goes and gives me a hug. And I'm like, what just happened right now? Like, I'm usually so cool and calm and collected around these wrestlers. And as soon as they start talking to Jacqueline, just lost it. Lost. Like, the little girl in me just, like, came out or something. I don't know. So Jacqueline. What else would I mark out for? To be Stone Cold. If I ever get to interview him or just meet him, I would probably be shaking. Like, I'd probably just be like, oh my God, it's Stone Cold. What else would I mark out for? Probably Triple H. I've met him in passing. Obviously he's in the press conference, like the pressers, but I've never formally met him. You know, probably more Stephanie, or both of them, maybe. I don't know. Like, I really love Stephanie, so probably her, to be honest with you. But it'd be really cool to just meet Triple H and just shake his hand, formally. So probably Stephanie. I'll say Stephanie.
I mean, those are three tremendous answers. Stephanie, thank you once again so much for being a guest on the Real Marks of Long Island podcast. Is there anything you'd like to plug before we hop out of here?
I mean, go follow Body Slam That channel. I have most of my WrestleMania interviews and coverage up there. And of course, just follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at Stephanie Hypes. That's pretty much it. Like, obviously follow you guys because you're amazing. And yeah, thank you for having me on. Like, I love talking wrestling. I just don't do this often as I probably like or should, but I appreciate that you even had me, to be honest.
You are more than welcome. I will catch up with you.
Back.
Yeah, I will catch up with you on Twitter, and we might get that Raw recap thing going on, Stephanie. We might get that going on weekly. Yeah, no, it was a pleasure. It was amazing to have you on.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thanks,
Thank
Court.
you so
Ty,
much.
Justin.
Thank you.
Bye.
It was awesome meeting you.